What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Lazy MMA, the best place for MMA predictions on YouTube. Moreno takes on Kavanagh this weekend at Arena CDMX in Mexico City, Mexico for Mexican Independence Day. And I'm going to be going through the entire card, giving my picks, predictions, and bets. Last week, Strickland versus Hernandez, we absolutely smacked on the main event, going 4 for 5 and picking the two largest underdogs on the card, that being Aerosmetic and Sean Strickland. Starting us off, we have Wes Schultz taking on Damian Pinas. Wes Schultz and Damian Pinas are both coming off their Contender Series win, with Wes Schultz coming by submission against Mario Minaj. And on the other hand, we have Damian Pinas coming off that KO win over Vitor Costa. And in this matchup, I am going to have to go with Wes Schultz for the upset at plus 195. Why am I picking Wes Schultz? You see, Damian Pinas, he's explosive, he's rangy, dynamic striker. He's everything that you'd like to see in a striker. However, where his deficiencies remain are in the grappling department. This guy is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu with no wrestling credentials whatsoever. And on his regional scene, I was watching this guy and his takedown defense and his counter wrestling, and that was just him using his sheer explosivity and power to shuck the guy off of him with zero technique. And those types of movements take up large amounts of your gas tank. On the other hand, we have a guy like Wes Schultz who's got a credentialed wrestling background as well as a purple belt. Actually, no, he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And I think that as this fight goes along, we see more beneficiaries for Wes Schultz. I think that Wes Schultz will be able to take him down constantly, utilizing his ground and pound to wear down Damian Pinas and lock up his sub in rounds 2 and 3. I just think that Damian Pinas's range of capabilities are not wide enough for this game of MMA, and I think that his grappling deficiencies are really going to show in this matchup. And for that reason, I'm going to be picking Wes Schultz. Moving up the card, we have Eric Silva taking on Francis Marshall. Eric Silva is coming off that knockout loss, but it was an injury loss against Muhammad Naimov. And on the other hand, we have Francis Marshall is coming off that split decision loss over Marion Santos. But in that fight against Marion Santos, it was a really razor close thin fight, but I do think Francis Marshall did get snubbed there a little bit, to be honest with you. And Marion Santos is a legit prospect. All right, guys? So that loss is a great loss on the record. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Francis Marshall in this fight. Eric Silva is a 38-year-old who did not find much success in the UFC, and every time he's been thrown into the cage, he's kind of been a lamb for the slaughter. And I think Francis Marshall, a 26-year-old who's got a couple losses on his record, you can see that he's 2 and 3 in his last 5. It doesn't matter. This is MMA, not boxing. This guy's consistently been getting better. He's looking hungry. He's very dynamic. He mixes it up very well. And I literally think that he's going to come out there and beat the shit out of Eric Silva. I'm not even going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I think he's going to find a finish in rounds 1 or 2. He could find that cold knockout shot, or he can hurt him and club and sub him. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think that he can dominate Eric Silva in every single realm of MMA. And for that reason, I'm going to be picking Francis Marshall to find himself a finish in rounds 1 or 2. Moving up the card, we have Ernesta Kirikate taking on Sofia Montenegro. Sofia Montenegro is coming off that loss against Chavez in her Contender Series debut, but I do think that fight, once again, could have gone towards her, could have been a tie, but I do not think it was necessarily a loss on her behalf. But however, that was arguably the greatest women's MMA fight I've ever seen in my entire life, and for that reason, Dana gave both of them a contract. Ernesta, on the other hand, is coming off that win against Nicole Cagliari, and before that, she was coming off that loss against Diane Barbosa, and before that, her Contender Series debut, it was against Carly Giudice, the girl we just saw making her debut, or making her fight this weekend against Strickland versus Hernandez, where she was just beating the living shit out of Juliana Miller. This is a tough fight. It's kind of a throw-up, and I'm surprised the odds here indicate Ernesta as a huge, huge favorite. I think that Montenegro can steal this fight. I'm going to pick Ernesta. It's not a very confident pick, but I'm going to pick her because I think she's a more clean fighter. I think she's more well-rounded. I think she's got more experience. On the other hand, is Sofia Montenegro. She does have that knockout power. She does have the edge of being a dog. Like this chick, we saw her get her ass whooped and beat the other chick's ass for 3 rounds straight. Like some of the highest output we've seen in women's MMA. And she did not stop pressing the gas. She did not stop pressing that pressure. And I think that though Montenegro is a very pressure-orientated style striker, and we saw that she's got a chin on her, I think that inevitably is going to be downfall. I think that she's not going to be able to start her game up, implement any takedowns, or even be able to utilize her striking. I think Ernesto is going to be circling the cage, spamming leg kicks, maybe some teeps in there, basically keeping her at bay. And I think that she's going to be able to lock up a 29-28 decision against Sofia Montenegro. However, I would not be surprised if Montenegro does land that KO shot, because we've seen time and time again, this chick's got some power in her hands, and she is not afraid to continue to press forward even when she's being battered. But because of the reason of cleanliness, I'm going to have to go with Ernesta. Moving up the card, we have Silva de Andrade taking on Javier Reyes. A lot of the Contender Series guys are making their UFC debuts on their card. Douglas de Andrade is coming off that loss against Miles Johns, who is Miles Johns inevitably, and before that he was coming off that win against Cody Stamann. On the other hand, we have Javier Reyes, who's coming off his Contender Series debut win against Justice Torres. I'm actually going to pick Douglas Silva de Andrade. You see, Javier Reyes, he's got the danger capabilities for sure. This guy poses a sub threat. This guy poses a knockout threat. He swings from the waist. He's got power in his punches. He's got some mean leg kicks. But he's very, very unclean and very unpolished. And what I mean by that is he keeps his hands consistently low. He has his chin up in the air. He's hunched over. And he swings from the waist, and he's just open for a counter. And Douglas Silva de Andrade has been fighting at 135 his entire career, but he's now, because of his age at 40 years old, is now moving up to 145. I think that we'll see a Douglas Silva de Andrade on TRT who's unbound, who is going to be much more powerful, and I think he's going to be able to land that counter on a guy like Javier Reyes. See, Douglas Silva de Andrade, though he's 29-6, he's lost to the best of the best. This guy's had 15 fights in the UFC. He's got world level, the highest echelon experience that you can ask for. Javier Reyes, on the other hand, a lot of his opponents from his regional scene are very questionable, and a lot of them you can't even find any fight footage on. And I think that his lack of experience is going to get him chinned here. I think that he's going to be pressing the gas, and he's not going to be used to a guy like a UFC guy who's going to be posing lots of threats. And I don't know how a guy like Javier Reyes is going to be responding to adversity, especially with a guy like Douglas Silva de Andrade, who we know can go all 3 rounds and not get gassed out. Can we say the same against Javier? I don't know if we can. I think that his lack of experience is going to get him clipped in this fight. I'm picking Douglas Silva de Andrade, very low confidence pick, and it's not more than I'm picking him, but more than I'm picking against Javier Reyes. I think that Reyes' lack of experience is unfortunately going to get him chinned in this fight. But I don't think he's going to get fully chinned, but I do think he can unfortunately get dropped, slow down, and lose a decision. Moving up the card, we have Christian Quinones taking on Chris Moreno. Chris Moreno is coming off that devastating knockout loss against Malcolm Wellmaker, where he was check hooked and flatlined on his face. Christian Moreno, on the other hand, is coming off that loss against Rahoni Barcelos, which is not really that terrible of a loss. However, if you look at his loss prior, it was also another submission loss against Kang Ho Kang, who is another guy who's pretty decent. Christian Quinones, El Problema. He is a very dynamic striker. He's a very dynamic kickboxer, to be exact. He circles the cage, utilizes his kicks, every now and then pops in his 1s and 2s, manages range very well. And Chris Moutinho, he's just like a gatekeeper on the regional scene, in the sense that everyone beats him before getting a shot at the UFC. And when he does, Chris Moutinho himself gets a shot at the UFC, both situations, it's been short notice. Both of them, he got absolutely beaten and battered. I think it was the most absorbed strikes out of any UFC 3-rounder ever against Sean O'Malley. And then he got flatlined against Wellmaker. And for that reason, you see Christian Quinones as a minus 700 favorite. But I'm going to pick Moutinho. I'm picking a lot of underdogs today, eh? But I'm going to have to pick Moutinho. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to pick Moutinho. This is the first time this guy has been on a full fight camp. On every other situation, we've seen him be on short notice and get peppered by some of the greatest prospects in the game. But a guy like Chris Moutinho, as terrible as he looks in terms of being a boxer, in terms of utilizing his kicks, and he has lack of explosiveness, he is a well-rounded MMA fighter. The guy's got a lot of MMA knowledge. He's got a lot of sub-threats. I've seen him on the regional scene, and he does very well. And in Christian Quinones, though this guy is an MMA fighter in the UFC, I think this guy's a glorified kickboxer with a real trouble in the grappling department. If Chris Moutinho has any form of intelligence whatsoever, he will be looking to expose that. He'll be able to looking to expose his grappling deficiencies. Maybe he'll take a few leg kicks from Christian Quinones, but what happens when we're locked up against the cage? What happens when I lat drop you? Will he be able to create that space and get out of the sub threats and take the fight back to standing? I don't think so. I think over a 3-round fight, and these guys are 135ers, and I don't think they'll be getting gassed anytime soon. I think that a guy like Chris Moutinho, if he can keep spamming those takedowns, will eventually be able to lock up that sub. I think he'll be able to lock up that sub and finally get his first UFC win. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Chris Moutinho as the biggest underdog on this card to get an upset in Mexico against a Mexican fighter. Moving up the card, we have Macy Chiasson taking on Ailin Perez. Ailin Perez is on a little bit of a streak right now with her last win coming against Carl Rosa. And before that, she did beat Jocelyn Edwards, who's been looking fantastic. Macy Chiasson, on the other hand, is coming off that loss against Yana Santos, and before then, Ketlin Vieira. Man, who am I going to pick? I'm going to pick Ailin Perez. Not a very confident pick. Macy Chiasson is going to be the bigger girl. Macy Chiasson is going to be the more dangerous girl. But Macy Chiasson, man, she looks like she can get bullied in the grappling department. Though she has great offensive grappling on her own respect, her defensive grappling is not the greatest. Not only is it not the greatest, she tends to get worn out and gas out in the rounds 2 and 3. And I think a girl like Ailin Perez is going to be able to utilize her striking to get those takedowns, to break down a girl like Macy Chiasson. And every single time she lands that takedown, a little bit of Macy Chiasson's danger factor is going to come down substantially over time. And I think that Ailin Perez will be utilizing her takedowns, gassing out Macy Chiasson, landing some strikes, and securing herself a unanimous decision victory in Mexico City. Moving up the card, we have Jose Medina taking on Ryan Gandra, another Contender Series debutant. Man, I'm not even going to sit here and sugarcoat it, give you a fucking convoluted analysis. Jose Medina is not an MMA fighter. Jose Medina is not a skilled fighter. Jose Medina is trash. I don't even understand how this guy's still in the UFC. He lost in his Contender Series fight, but because he had heart and a chin, I guess, because he was emoting on his opponent, Dana decided to give him a contract, but now he's had 3 fights in the UFC, getting finished in all of them. So you got UD by fucking Zach Reese, okay, congratulations. And then finished by Atiba Gutierrez, and then finished by Dusko Todorovic, who's terrible. Ryan Gandra is coming off the knockout win against Trent Miller. I'm going with Ryan Gandra in this fight. He's a heavy favorite for a reason. I think that even if Ryan Gandra wasn't the dangerous individual that he is, because trust me, this guy is both a threat standing and on the ground. This guy's relentless. This guy's explosive. This guy's well-rounded. He's a great fighter, but I don't need to sit here talking about his accolades because a guy like Jose Medina is fucking terrible. He has 0 striking, 0 grappling. The guy's not skilled whatsoever. He's just a tough guy. And what do you mean by tough guy? He's a guy who likes to get into bar fights type guy. And I think his lack of skills is going to get him finished in this fight. And I think he's going to get subbed in this fight. Because Jose Medina, though he's terrible, does have a chin. I don't know what the fuck that amounts to, but he does have a chin. And he's a fighter at heart. The guy does not give up. And I think a guy like Ryan Gandra is going to be trying to knock him out, not going to be able to find that knockout shot. So he's going to be like, fuck it, I'm going to sub this guy. And I do predict Ryan Gandra to get a sub in rounds 1 or 2. I expect him to come out there hot, piecing up Jose Medina, staying out of Jose Medina's jab, eventually maybe even knocking down Jose Medina and locking up a club and sub win. Moving up the card, we have Santiago Luna taking on Angel Pacheco. Santiago Luna is on a little bit of a streak with his last win coming against Kwang Lee, which was a very good win. And on the other hand, we have Angel Pacheco coming off that Calvin Ryan loss by UD. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. Santiago Luna is going to come out there and probably find himself a finish. Dude, Angel Pacheco's 34. Never found any success in the UFC. Another guy who lacks a lot of skill. I can't sit here and say anything really notable about him. I mean, he's got some grappling proficiencies, I guess, that I can say that he's got some good takedown entries, but there's nothing about him that I could point to and be like, yeah, this is a real threat to a guy like Santiago Luna. Santiago Luna is not going to come out here and have a problem. I think this is a little bit of a layup that they gave him in Mexico City, and he's another guy that like should find a finish here, and I don't think he should find a finish in rounds 2 or 3. I think he'll find a finish in round 1. I think he'll come up there He'll piece him up, maybe introduce the grappling threat. I don't think he will. I really just see him landing that straight right down the middle, finding that knockout shot, securing himself a fantastic win in Mexico City, and really establishing his name as a future 135 contender. Moving up the card, we have Emmanuel Rodriguez taking on Kevin Borjas. Emmanuel Rodriguez is coming off that win against Rocky Conceição on the Contender Series. And before that, Jose Morales on tough split decision loss. And Jose Morales' loss, those an exhibition loss, it was a split decision loss that could have gone either way. And we saw what Jose Morales did to a guy like Ilby Adres. Emmanuel Rodriguez is a real threat, guys. Kevin Borjas, on the other hand, he has a win against Smiley Boy, which is Ronaldo Rodriguez. But afterwards, he lost to Sumer Derji. Dude, Sumer Derji's terrible. Sumer Derji's fucking terrible. I'm not here to talk about him, but he's terrible. We've seen Kevin Borjas' ceiling. He's fought multiple times in the UFC. Emmanuel Rodriguez is a great fighter. I personally have even met this guy. He used to train at Lions MMA in Vancouver. He is Rodrigo Centenato's friend. I personally have a connection to this guy, so you can call the bias pick, but I don't think it's a bias pick. I don't think Kevin Borjas is that good. He does have great striking. I want to say great striking, but he has striking. I don't know what that amounts to. His grappling is terrible. Emmanuel Rodriguez, on the other hand, has great grappling. He's got great submission threats, and he's got great boxing. He's got great Mexican boxing. He's in and out with his shots. He digs to the body. He goes up top. He does put that leg kick out there to make you have something to think about. He's a great fighter. Kevin Borjas, we've seen time and time again, though, he is a very resilient fighter, though. He's not a guy who's going to go down easy. And though he's not a guy who goes down easy, though he's more likely to lose a decision, I don't think he will in this fight. Emmanuel Rodriguez is a real problem for this weight division, guys. This guy's explosive, well-rounded, very technically skilled, and I think that he's going to be able to lock up a sub in this fight. I really do. He might be able to land that knockout shot, but I think more likely he's going to be able to chin Borjas by digging to that body, dropping his hands, go up top, maybe drop him, hop on his back, and find himself a rear naked choke. Though Emmanuel Rodriguez is coming off a knockout win, this guy is a grappler at heart, and he is a problem to look out for. I expect him to come out there, get a phenomenal finish in Mexico City on Independence Day, and establish himself as a future 125 contender. Moving up the card, we have Edgar Chairez and Felipe Bunes opening up the main card. Edgar Chairez is coming off that submission win against CJ Varga. And Felipe Bunes, on the other hand, is coming off that loss against Rafael Estevan by UD. And in this fight, it's a very obvious pick, guys. Edgar Chairez is going to come out there and is going to win this fight. Felipe Bunes, I don't know, dude. The guy's a slow striker. He's not very dynamic, explosive, doesn't mix it up really well. He's got great grappling. I mean, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got great submission threat, but the guy lacks the wrestling compartment to get to the grappling aspect. You know what I mean? To get to the point that he can threat submission on Edgar Chairez. Edgar Chairez, on the other hand, he's a Mexican-born fighter. And I think that's very relevant to know because we are in Mexico City and it is Independence Day. There's a reason they're giving these Mexican guys kind of trash cans, dude. I don't want to sit here and shit on Felipe Bunes because I guess he has some good wins. Like, I remember that win against Jose Johnson, and Jose Johnson's an alright fighter, I guess. And you see, it was by sub. I'm telling you, this guy is a great submission specialist. We know this. But he gets there because their opponents oftentimes make a mistake. And I don't think a guy like Edgar Chairez, who had a competitive fight with Joshua Van, is going to come out there and make any mistakes. I expect him to utilize his boxing, maybe even introduce his own grappling. But I don't think he needs to in this fight. I really think that he can knock out Felipe Bunes in rounds 1 or 2 even, man. Felipe Bunes is not that great. He leaves a lot of openings for a guy like Edgar Chairez to break down that lead leg because he's very heavy on that lead leg, Felipe Bunes is. He likes to pop his jab out, doesn't really throw out his cross much, and I think that one of these times when he is popping that jab out, Edgar Chairez is going to find his timing and land that left hook and find himself a knockout victory in Mexico City. Moving up the card, we have Daniel Zellhuber taking on King Green. Daniel Zellhuber is coming off that upset loss against Michael Johnson. But let's not forget, Unk has always still got it. On the other hand, we have King Green coming off that split decision victory over the Canadian Lance Gibson Jr. And this fight, I'm going to go with Daniel Zellhuber. I'm going to go with Daniel Zellhuber by vicious knockout. Look, man, I know this guy's 0-2. And the funny thing is, the last time prior to the loss against Michael Johnson against Esteban Rivovic split decision was also on Independence Day in Mexico at the Sphere in Las Vegas, if you do remember. I get that this guy's been a heavy favorite 2 times and lost 2 times. A lot of people have lost respect and trust in him. But man, dude, Daniel Zellhuber is he's still a good prospect, man. He's only 26. He's a very tall, rangy guy for this weight division. He's 6'1" and fights at 155. King Green, on the other hand, is like 5'10", old, chin has turned to dust. Not the greatest fighter, to be honest with you. This guy fights with his hands down by his waist, likes to call the Philly shell. He does not have a Philly shell. What King Green does very well is when you are trying to fight a clean fight, he'll stay in your face and not allow you to have a clean fight. But if you're down to get down and dirty, this guy's very susceptible to getting knocked out. And a guy like Daniel Zellhuber, with his dynamic striking, with his ability to mix in his kicks as well as his hands, he's going to be able to find a knockout shot in this fight, to be honest with you. King Green's chin has turned to dust. Father time comes for us all. King Green's on the edge of turning 40 years old. And Daniel Zellhuber, man, like, I don't see any aspect of this game that King Green can manipulate and basically take to his advantage. Maybe he can use his grappling, but really, Bobby Green, is he known for being a fucking grappling expert? No, he's not. And even then, Daniel Zellhuber's deficiencies in grappling are not that big. Esteban Ribovic's attempted 2 takedowns, failed to get both. Zellhuber just couldn't find his range against a guy like Michael Johnson, who's nonstop pressure but with high guard boxing. Guy like King Green is not high guard boxing. I think Daniel Zellhuber can land a right cross across King Green's chin and find that knockout shot easy. Or I'm hypothesizing a head kick KO. King Green time and time again has shown that he's susceptible to getting head kicked. Why? Because he fights with his hands by his waist. Who's the last guy that head kick knocked out King Green, if you remember? Mauricio Ruffy. Now, I'm not sitting here comparing Daniel Zellhuber to Mauricio Ruffy, but their fight styles are very similar in the sense of it's karate, kickboxer-esque striking, where they like to utilize their range, popping in and out, and using their really weird kicks. And I think a spinning back kick can even be another possibility. A guy like Daniel Zellhuber does like to utilize his long legs a lot. And I think he could be teeping King Green, managing his range, and eventually he will find that heavy shot and he will lay out King Green. And if I had to guess a round, I would guess round 1 or 2 as well, man. I really don't think a guy like King Green can stay in there with these young bucks anymore. A young buck who's really hungry and wants it, he can't stay in there. He was able to win against Lance Gibson Jr. because Lance Gibson Jr. was very scared to engage. Daniel Zellhuber is not going to be scared to engage. And he has a dirty clinch game too. Don't be surprised if he clinches up with Bobby Green and secures himself a knockout victory with a knee up the middle. Moving up the card, we have Marlon Vera versus David Martinez for the co-main. Marlon Vera is coming off a 0-3 skid, with his most recent loss being a split decision loss against Amin Zahabi. David Martinez, on the other hand, is coming off that short notice victory over Rob Font. I've thought about this fight for the past couple of days, guys. I can't sit here and lie to you. It's been hard, man. But I'm going to go with Marlon Vera. As a moderate-sized underdog at plus 220 to find himself a win and get back into the mix, man. Marlon Vera, there's a time, if you remember, that this guy was that guy where he was getting into 5-rounders with guys like Corey Sandhagen and so forth. But since then, he's been on a huge skid. But this guy used to be in the mix, man. This guy used to be in the top 7. This guy used to be feared. This guy used to be dodged and avoided. And now I think he's being disrespected substantially against a guy like David Martinez. But I understand why. You see, Marlon Vera is a very slow starter. He likes to give up the first round. He's not very high output. He has a very stiff jab. And David Martinez is the type of guy Marlon Vera could lose to. Why? David Martinez is very high output. I wouldn't say he's got a lot of pop in his shots, but he did drop Rob Font. But he's very high output. He's very springy. He's light on his toes. He circles the cage. He likes to pop in and out for his shots. But Marlon Vera has the edge in experience, veteran savvy skills, and I think he knows he's on the chopping block. He's 0-3. He's 1-4 in his last 5. And this is a fight for his career. And I think Marlon Vera felt snubbed in his last fight. I think a new version of Marlon Vera is going to come out. Do I have anything to support this? No, not really. But he did look strong against Zahabi. And Zahabi is somehow a top contender nowadays. You know what I mean? And I think that Marlon Vera is going to be able to utilize his veteran side of his skills, maybe even mix it up a little bit. And I don't think he's going to start off slow in this fight. I think he's going to really pop that jab out to bust up David Martinez's face, slow him down. He likes to utilize his leg kicks, which I think are going to be very useful in this fight, because if he's able to break down David Martinez's lead leg, and even though David Martinez is a southpaw and likes to switch stance a lot, if he's able to break down David Martinez's legs, that will take away a very, very core part of his game, which is the springiness, which is the bounciness and the explosivity. And if he's going to lack that, what does he have? I don't think David Martinez has a lot to respond. I think Marlon Vera is the type of guy that has so many tricks in his bag that he's very unpredictable, and a really lackluster, inexperienced guy is not going to be able to deal with a guy like Marlon Vera. I think that Marlon Vera will be showing David Martinez levels in this game, getting himself an upset victory in Mexico City, getting back into the mix, and I think he's going to win this fight by decision. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think that Marlon Vera will be able to edge out a decision. Now, moving on to the main event of the evening. Brandon Assassin Boy Moreno takes on Loner Kavanagh. Loner Kavanagh is coming off that loss against Charles Johnson in China, if you remember that knockout loss in round 2. Brandon Moreno, on the other hand, is coming off his first finish loss in a long time, first knockout loss to Tatsuro Taira, which some people say it was an early stoppage, but we all know he was going out anyways. Once again, I don't think I have to sit here and give you a long explanation. I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno. I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno for a multitude of reasons. Brandon Moreno has lost to the best of the best, and when he loses close fights. The guy lost a split decision against Alexander Pantoja, who people are going on to say is the flyweight GOAT, which I personally don't think he can even fucking compete with a guy like Demetrius Johnson. But people are saying that he could be like the flyweight GOAT. Loner Kavanagh, on the other hand, is a very inexperienced flyweight. He's 9-1 with his most recent loss being against Charles Johnson. But here's the thing about Loner Kavanagh, guys. Ilia Topuria gave him a lot of respect. I give him a lot of respect. This guy's got great striking. He's super explosive. He's super dynamic. He's great at mixing it up. But for some reason, he doesn't have the gas tank to support it. And we see it oftentimes in these very explosively reliant striking-based guys with their inability to continue that pace. And I think that's going to be the same in this fight. I think if he's unable to keep that pace against Charles Johnson on a full camp in China, he's not going to be able to keep that pace with a guy like Brandon Moreno in Mexico City at elevation on short notice. I think his gas tank is not going to be able to compete in this fight, and I do not see this fight going long. I do not see Brandon Moreno winning by decision. I see Brandon Moreno finding himself a finish in Mexico City, once again giving us a y'all must have forgot fight. And I think that he's going to finish him in under 3 rounds. And I have Brandon Moreno by submission. I think that Brandon Moreno has lost his pop in his shots in the recent years. But I think that Loner Kavanagh has the striking to compete with Brandon Moreno. But if he gets gassed, he does not have the grappling. He does not have the experience. He does not have the dynamic ability to mix it up. And I think that Brandon Moreno is going to absolutely steamroll Loner Kavanagh. Kavanagh might have some success in the first round because Kavanagh's got great striking. He's explosive, but come round 2, maybe even end of round 1, you're going to see this guy tired. You're going to see this guy tired. And I think a guy like Brandon Moreno, when he smells blood in the water, he's going to come in there. He's going to find himself that kill. I do see Brandon Moreno getting a submission in rounds 2 or 3. Well, that's going to do it for me, guys. That was Moreno versus Kavanagh picks and predictions taking place this weekend at Arena CDMX for Mexican Independence Day. If you are new here, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it does help out the channel a lot. This has been Lazy MMA, lazy analysis, serious results.